girls with their nails done.
Hey guys, welcome to the NXL Spain layout walkthrough. The event is going to be the 2nd to the 5th of April, so coming up fast and 3 or 4 weekends to go in terms of training time for teams. So without further ado, let's get into this. As you can see, let's get you a good overhead shot. Okay, looking at snake side at the bottom of the screen, D side at the top, there's actually quite a lot to get stuck into. Snake has a relatively kind entry into it in that, with a bit of speed and a bit of a launch, you'll find yourself with a presence in the snake. How quickly you choose to advance up the snake is entirely player dependent and team dependent. But, when you're up into that first major knuckle, it's not a big bump to get to the 50 and then to get past the 50 because you're protected on the inside. So we'll look at that in more depth in a moment. I think the center is attainable. You've got the lay down wedges and you've also got the big brick that is end on. So, some interesting angles there. I think D side, let's see if we can get a better look at D side. So there's a good look at the snake aspect and that center. You can see as you go towards D side, you've got the big brick on the 50 with a stand-up wedge, followed by a lay down wedge on the outside. It's a nice look with D side on the right hand side. You can see there's decent progression into the Doritos. You got the can, you got the tall cake in the corner. D1's a little bit smaller than D2, 3, 4, but all makeable. D side is quite powerful in terms of control, and you can do that from D1 and D2 going into that lay down wedge on the tape. As we get into this, let's see. Okay. Let's give ourselves a little bit of height. So, coming in from the start gate with snake on our right initially. Snake side run is, as we've said, feasible. You can choose to go round the tall tower, round the temple, and then into the snake. Or you could choose to come out wide to the corner and go past the little mini cake, past the cake rather, into the snake that way. As you can see though, if you did choose the route that went around the corner, that back center can could chop you up. What's really interesting is the shots that you actually have straight off the bat. And if we just get a bit of a more realistic player height rather than an ML King's height. Let's see. Okay. So straight off the bat, you could step out and shoot down the gut. As you can see, the opposite home bunker, the back center there, you can shoot either side of it. You can also shoot people running into tall tower on the left-hand side, and you could shoot over the angle of those wedges at anybody standing there. Great shot initially into this dead area here. And I'm specifically talking about this dead area here that we would look at the far end, and is the area behind the wedge going into the tall tower. This is shootable from the get-go over the pin, and if you took the approach of just spinning and shooting, you could drop paint over the wedges and catch people who had made a sloppy break. Either not responded quickly, slipped, run into each other, got tangled, whatever the case may be. There's a great opportunity there to catch people early. If you fast forward a second or two into the point, and you start to shoot over this pin, which you can just see between the two central wedges, you've got a shot to catch people in this area here. So just coming into this tall tower. So that's a super powerful shot too. Let's just get to a proper height. There we go. So initially, great opportunity to get some very early paint on opponents going into that tall tower. Bit of a fishing mission, if you like, as you widen and go for a bigger shot towards the snake. But as you widen that angle, you got a fantastic opportunity to shoot over the first cake, so snake 1, that really inside bunker, to the tall cake in the corner. So initially, this back center gun could do multiple jobs, getting paint early on your opponent's start gate, getting paint early into the tall tower, and then getting paint at a pretty sustainable rate towards that tall cake on the snake side corner. So instantly, you have the opportunity to use one gun to do 3 jobs straight off the break. Now, the challenge on the snake side is how you get your players out. Initially to the tall tower, and then later on out wide into the snake or to the corner. It's going to be very effective to delay behind this back center, or it's going to be effective to delay behind this back center. How long you can delay will depend on the quality of your opponents and the quality of their ability to do that job of containing you in this pocket. Certainly, there's a good opportunity to spin shoot, take a good shot, and then launch out at speed to the corner. And, with the caveat that by then, you may have a player alive in the tall tower to give them something to think about as they're trying to contain you. So as much as I think we will see breaks directly to the snake, I think there's also a huge opportunity to use the delay to make your opponents feel as though you're not going to take any width, but surprise them with that little staggered move out. Tall tower, very important bunker. In that, back center, very important off the bat, particularly powerful with regards to containing the snake side. And this is something that is applicable for all divisions and all abilities. You, in the lower divisions, the best shot might be over the brick at the temple, rather than a fast inside shot at the tall tower. In the higher divisions, you may have the opportunity, you do have the opportunity to do multiple jobs from this position. How well you can do those jobs and how many of those jobs you can do will depend on your skill set. And it's the ability to spin and shoot quickly and efficiently, the ability to get those first 5 balls off accurately that lead on to, I can do multiple jobs in this role. So there's huge opportunity here for back center to be kill count leader in the first 10 seconds of every single point. When you get out to this tall tower, I think that as strong as back center is off the bat, it's not an all game bunker or an all point bunker. You need to spread the field and get some width. And I feel that this tall tower is one of those anchor points where you can see the shots that you've got on D side. You can see the control that it gives you height-wise of the snake, and also the ability to contain both sides of that snake corner. Smart team might choose to look at keeping their opponents entirely out of the snake corner, because if that happens, and let's just show you what I mean by this. If that happens, you lose the ability to control the wire on the snake side. unless you've got a very dominant player in the snake. And, by default, that's pretty much up at the 50 or past the 50. If you are a team that is reliant on a snake presence, then you're going to want to support your snake player, and that's done best from this snake corner. Keeping your opponents out of that snake corner is going to afford your snake player the luxury of being, freedom of movement, freedom to look down the wire when they feel it's appropriate, wrap down the wire, and most importantly, move forward down the wire, because you have to go round those big outer snake knuckles. It's only the 50 that you can actually go on the inside and use the snake beam as cover. Let's just give you a little look at that here. So on the 50, I believe you can crawl through there safely. This knuckle here, you're coming around the outside to make a move forward. Unless you choose a super risky dive over the beam, which, as you can see, you can get chopped up by the brick, you can get chopped up by the can, both cans, and you can get chopped up by the wedge. So, may not want to do that. Once you're past the 50, though, yes, there's great shots inside, but it's actually having the safety and the sanctity of, being able to move around the outside that could get the cheap, easy kill from the temple and from the tall tower and then wrap onto the cans, rather than fighting everyone on the inside. So really interesting dynamic of how to play the snake and what can be gained from keeping their snake corner out of the game. Let's have a little look here for you. Okay, going into the center. By the way, and before we do the center, playing this temple as a gateway into the snake is not a bad idea at all. This is attainable off the bat, and certainly if you're struggling getting into the snake, I feel that this is a very suitable stopgap to build some confidence, get some momentum, keep some bodies alive off the break, and get the paint flowing, so to speak, at your opponents and start restricting them. Some decent shots across field, nothing amazing, and certainly not a position you would want to be in if they had the snake and they had a good D-side presence, as you can get pinched out relatively simply. The big is this is a stopgap. This is a, stepping stone into the snake. And then when you're in the snake, let's actually look at what you've got. Okay. In the snake, so getting into snake 1 isn't too much of a stretch, in that there's nobody really containing you other than that D1 gun, who would have to, if there's an opposing player at D1 and they choose to shoot this lane, the entrance into the snake, they don't have the luxury of seeing you leave this tall temple to get in there. And you can see that as we back up a little bit and close that off. As you leave the bunker, though, that's when you could run into their paint. And it's entirely dependent on the awareness of what's coming in and when you feel the movement is right to take that chance and roll the dice. Not a big leap of faith to cross this gap, because it's really only a foot or two that's shootable, and they would have to have paint in the air to hit you if you were going with sufficient momentum. Once you're in the snake, you've got a lot to work with. If you go in sloppy, as in you slide really wide and you're in this dead area behind the angled beam, the tower could drop paint over the top and kill you. So you've got to be mindful of hugging the beam as much as you can. If you hug the beam and you make it in unseen by the tower, which is perfectly feasible, because all you're trying to do is just move out slightly from their gun and get in behind this little cake. If you do that, and their D1 doesn't relay the fact that you're in the snake, or even if they do relay the fact that you've made the snake and crossed their lane, if you react quickly, you can get up, crawl this beam, crawl the angled beam, and live in snake 2, and the tower can't stop you. It's one of those, it's almost got to be a predetermined thought process of, this is how I need to make the snake. When I've made the snake, this is what I need to do immediately to be able to live in there. If you're catching your breath lying on the ground, floundering at the back of that snake, you're going to get punished by that tall tower. Tall tower, back center, even potentially the other can. Because we can see this area here, the other can completely control and, chop up any movement from this outer cake on the snake. Get in there, get stuck in, get into snake 2 and live. Immediately, the safest shots are normally across field, and you may wish to check off the 50s. You may, it's very unlikely that checking off the 50s is going to give you away to anybody who's actually got a decent shot on you. So, depending on how confident you are, depending on how aggressive your opponents are, you might just want to check off that 50 complex of the laydown brick and the stand-up wedge just to make sure. D-side 50 can't shoot you in the snake 2, but you can get chopped up by that left can, the 40 laydown wedge, and this 50 brick if there was somebody there. Check off the tape and maybe see if there's a move to be made. And because that 50 mini wing is slightly offset to the outside, the potential move up to the 50 in the snake is relatively safe. You've got to be cautious as you come round that temple, the small temple on the D side, isn't aware and isn't trying to shoot you over the kind of the side on mini wing. But once you're actually in here, you got the luxury to go all the way to their snake 2 if you want to. And typically on a layout that allows you to do this, the benefit is always to the aggressor, in the sense of you get better angles, you can see more of your opponent, and typically you're safer when it comes to, you're safer in the sense of it's a harder shot for the tower to kill you from here. If the snake corner wants to kill you, they have to launch, so long as you're playing tight and smart. You've got a better angle on that small temple D side. You've got the tall tower D side. You've got the D side corner, and you've got a great shot on D3 and the wedge. If they're in D2, you actually don't have to worry. If they're in D1, you actually don't have to worry at this stage because you can live. And all of a sudden, your opponents fear being shot more than you need to fear being shot. So the control that most players yearn is in your hands. Really powerful position. And it's almost one of those interesting scenarios where, as a snake player, if you're consistently getting up to your opponent's snake 2, you're doing your job. You're doing your job really well. And at this stage, you don't need to shoot 5 players a point. If you've taken a couple of eliminations, some smart kills, and you made some really smart moves to get to their snake 2, then this is where your teammates come into play, because all of the pressure should be off them and your opponent should be focusing on trying to eliminate you, whether that's by bunkering you out, whether that's, just tying up guns and lanes. I think you'll experience both of those entities. And this is where, you need to find a way to relay that information. Hey, I'm absorbing all of this heat. Time for you guys to giddy up and go. And this is, this is where center players step up and make the moves. This is where D-side players need to step up and make the moves. This is where your snake corner player, your back guy, needs to actually take advantage. If you're taking all the heat, what wrap shots do they have? What luxuries do they have that they can now take because of the work that you've put in? And this isn't a cue for them to join you in the snake. This is a cue for them to, take that wrap shot. How, can they do more to help you? All you have to do as the player at your opponent's snake 2 is live. They have to help you live. And they can help you best by being proactive, moving, and getting some kills. So let's go all the way down to this side. And we'll play the D side out this way. So back center, shooting D side is limited. In super simple terms, this tall tower makes it difficult because you can't shoot through it. Yes, you can shoot wide, but you're very blinded as to what's going on. As in, you can shoot over that 50 brick, but you will rarely know if you've hit them, missed them, bounced them, behind them, in front of them, too high, too low, etc., unless you just see them run into oblivion and give up. Any smart team, any team playing this layout doesn't need to show all their cards in the sense of, let's say I'm the opposing player running to D2 and I get clipped. I should be really smart on how I exit the field. And obviously within the rules and the parameters of, the event I'm playing at, whether it is a local feeder event or it's the NXL. If the exit to the pit, to the field was in the corner of the field, I would make a very concerted effort to run directly to that corner rather than run off, go up and allow the back player to see me. So, and this is purely because of the position of that angled wedge and the big brick. It blinds out D1, 2, 3. It blinds out the majority of that tall cake in the corner. And it allows you to, if you do get clipped, to leave gracefully, let's just say that, or leave tactfully, whereby your opponents may miss you. They may mess up the count. And that works to your favor, even if you've made a mistake and got shot. So coming out on the D side, first kind of backline stop off is this tall can. As you come into the can, you may get some heat from the center. Depends if they're running and gunning that central laydown wedge. You might get a bit of heat from back center, but I wouldn't call it quality heat, if that makes sense, in that I don't think the quality of shot is there compared to the quality of shot that you've got on the snake side from back center. So I wouldn't expect too much heat in that respect. You may get the odd random sparrow shooter who's trying to run and gun out to the corner, throw some paint back at you. And this could be both corners. This could be snake side corner and D side corner. So this is a bit of a potluck bunker in the sense of you could take an odd random ball and get shot whilst doing everything right. And it's your ability to process that information. Do I feel I made a mistake? Yes or no? If the honest answer to that question is no, I don't feel I made a mistake, and it was just a random ball, personally, I'd run it again. If you felt you did make a mistake and you got lit up by, like 5 or 6 balls in quick succession on your way there, you probably don't want to run that lane or that route because somebody has a really good lane to stop you from doing that. And I think this is quite an interesting side topic whereby try and be mindful of your ability to process the quality with which you were eliminated. Sometimes I think we all are aware of dying cheap. We're either sloppy on a snapshot or, we just weren't fast going to where we needed to be, or fast enough rather. Other times you kind of come off a little bit bewildered and it's like, oh, that actually doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going to do that again and see if they can do that. And I'm a big advocate of taking that approach, especially in training. You've got to feel, actually, I messed up, and that was a really, that was a quality elimination. You want to be taken out by quality eliminations, whether it's off the break, in-game, snap shooting, you're going for a bunker run, and, that guy really chops you up, is one of those where you can feel on most fields when you try and do a bunker run, whether it's, snake 2 to snake 2 or whatever, how much margin of error you've got. And when somebody's really on it and they stop you from doing it. When people aren't on it and they can't stop you from doing it, but you get punished after you've done it. And it's just being able to digest and ascertain, okay, what was the quality of that elimination like? And I think that's quite a key thing when it comes to learning to practice and learning how to get the most from your practice, individually and as a team. If you can get out to D-side corner, you've got a little coast-to-coast opportunity to pinch out snake side corner. Obviously, if you can shoot them, they can shoot you. So it's a bit of a who's got the bigger balls scenario sometimes. You can also see that the can on the D side, if you look at the far end, just to the left of their D3, between the D3 and the wedge, they've got a pretty decent shot to contain the outside of this bunker. So if you're looking for the wrap shots, etc., a very smart can player can control the outside of the D side corner bunker. Into D1, this looks little. This looks very hobbitish. You got the back of the snake. You got the snake side corner. Get chopped up by that central wedge. Maybe a blind shot from the temple. Tower's got some shots on you. Back center's got some shots on you over the brick. Right hand can has shots on you. This wedge on the 50 has shots on you. D1, D2 have shots on you. D3 has shots on you. And D-side corner has shots on you. Tough gig, basically. And, stop off and go. D2 looks much nicer in the sense of you block off a lot of the snake, you block off a lot of the 50s, and you block off a lot of the snake side corner and predominantly you do this because they don't have the visual retainment that they need to keep concentration on you. If you're in D2, the snake side of the field you'll fall off their radar. And it's because they won't constantly see little bits to shoot at. Unlike the D1, they can retain visual contact. They can see those bits and, you keep their attention, for want of a better a way of explaining it. In D2, you can completely drop off the radar. They'll sleep on you. They'll forget about you, especially if you're not shooting back. And, as and when you feel the opportunity is there, you can either bump up to D4 or you can bump into D3. If you choose to go into D3, snake side is still relatively blind to you, but you've just opened yourself up to being shot from the D-side corner, D-side can, all of these D-side 50s, and D1, 2, 3, 4. It's a risky move. I think that D3 comes into its own if you've completely destroyed your opponent's D-side and you have the opportunity to move up uncontested. I think D4 is a much safer move from D2 because you're coming on the outside, and so long as you've got control of the wire, is really only snake 1 that you've got to be a little bit mindful of, and that back center. Now, timing is everything, not just in your efficiency to make this move, but the timing, the point at which you choose to make this move in the actual point that you're playing. So if this is I'm making this move straight, almost immediately within the first 10 seconds, there's a good chance there'll be a player at the back center still who's trying to control snake side. If you make this move 2 minutes into that point and you've successfully been able to put some pressure on back center from both corners, for example, it's likely that they won't be there. They'll either have been eliminated or they've appreciated the fact that they need to get out of there so that they can, enhance their life expectancy and do their role on field. Same comes into play with the heat that you'll get from snake one. If you, and in a weird way, if you do this too early, there could well be a player at snake one who's looking for a fast kill. Especially in the lower divisions, I see a lot of players stop at every possible bunker in the snake to see who they can shoot. Partially because they've not walked the field properly, partially because they're just keen and they just want to get kills, and it's just it's one of those things. It's a rite of passage, let's say. In the higher divisions, if the snake players know that the biggest gains are from snake 50 and beyond, that's where they go. They're not fussed about living at snake one. They want to get stuck in and do the job as fast as possible. So this is one of those moments where you can almost allow your timing to let them move past snake one so that danger passes. If they're up in the snake 50s, you're actually not fussed in terms of making your bump. And you can see, if you look all the way across the field, even if they get to your snake 2, you're safe there. If you're in snake 3, if you're in D3, by the way, you're not safe from your own snake 2, which is another good reason to go D4. When you're at D4, you open up a lot of wrap shots. This will be entirely dependent on your ability to control the wire. And you can either control by eliminating or you can control by containing. If you choose to control by containing, which is obviously the harder job because your opponent is still alive and unpredictable, and you're efficient at taking, a one ball wrap, you've got shots on that temple, you've got shots on the can, and you've got shots on the back center can and the 2 towers. Lots to go at. You got an inside shot on the back center. You got an inside shot on the temple. You got an inside shot on the can as well. So again, this is one of those live and allow your teammates to take up some of the slack type of roles. The bump to the 50 is plagued with opponents who can chop you up. And a lot of your success is going to be dependent on how well orchestrated their overwatch of the field is. If they recognize that you're at D2, 3, or 4, how well are they going to be at setting up to stop your opponent, to stop you from moving forward? So for argument's sake, you can see the 2 towers almost in a line there. If the back tower, if the front tower turns around and said, I've got D4, meaning I've got control of D4, and if they try and move, I'll shoot them. That allows the back tower to assume the role of controlling the snake side. Vice versa, if the back tower says, I've got D4, then the front tower needs to assume the role of snake side, but they also need to think about their profile so that they can't be shot as the D4 player moves, and they allow the guy behind them to take that shot. And the can interchanges in this relationship as well. It's more about somebody saying, if this happens, this is what we do and this is how we do it, and I'll take the shot. And the other guy's knowing, okay, if they've got that shot, I need to take this shot, and having that, layer of protection and security throughout. It's going to be really interesting because this is a great example. And I mean, by this, I mean this D side is a fantastic example of how you can overload a team. The average team will not be able to communicate efficiently what is happening, and they will lose the pace so quickly that they will be relaying what has happened. If you're in control of what's happening, you've overloaded them. If they're stuck on what has happened and they can never catch up because there's too much information to try and relay, digest, and then respond to. And this is where the aggressive mentality always wins. If you are constantly giving your opponent something to talk about, something to cope with, something to digest, they lose their ability to concentrate on eliminating you. And you have that luxury because you're not digesting what they're doing, because they're not doing anything other than trying to survive. So if you can launch and get stuck into this 50, yet again, you've given them something else to think about, to relay, to process and digest. And, you know, you've got inside shots on the temple, the snake corner, the towers, the back center. You got outside wrap shots on D2, D4, also the can. And, you know, that corner guy is thinking, where am I going to get bunkered from? So everything is stacked towards the team that wants to be aggressive and can be aggressive. Let's just quickly have a look at this forward tower. So just slightly biased to the D side, but such an integral part of this little game of chess with markers that it's so worthwhile spending a couple of minutes on. If you're the player, or if you are the type of player who is capable of breaking to the 50, then I think it's very important that you recognize that this is a playable bunker for you. This tall tower gives you so many options to dictate the flow and the pace of the match or the point that you're in. It's ridiculous. If you're talented enough to get to the 50, and by talented enough, I mean you have the physique and the speed, and you also have the awareness to be able to adjust either on the fly or, you know, post point and correct any mistakes that you've made, then learn to utilize this style of bunker in the sense of you're a weapon for your team. If you're a weapon head down, not shooting, are you enough of a weapon? When there's a bunker like this on the 30 to 40 line that would allow you to run and gun into it, you can see you got a great shot for D-side corner over that tall brick. You got a great shot for snake side tower over the angle of the wedge. And you can really, really chop people up. And that's not to mention the shots that you got later on for snake corner, if you're playing that way. Depending on your ability and your levels of comfort, you can choose to stay here for as long as you want. You will need to work hard to stay there for a prolonged period of time, but it's possible. Sometimes you can work hard by getting a key elimination off the break that keeps you alive. So for example, if you kill the D-side corner off the break as you're running and gunning here, you're less likely to be pinched. Especially if your teammates are doing a job of containing the D side and you have a little bit more breathing space. What I really like about this tall tower is the options that you have from it. And instantly you've got the big wedge towards the snake side. There's a crazy run over the snake beam to get in there, and you can get really stuck in there if you have to, or you can take a safer route to the back of the snake and crawl in. Or if you really want to push the limits, you can dip out to D3 or forward to the big brick and the wedges. This is the launch pad. Fortnite Chapter 2, or Fortnite Season 2 Chapter 2, as my kids would correct me, this is your launch pad. Get it in the arsenal, get using it. And you've got, let's have a quick look at the calendar, 1, 2, 3, 4 weekends, 4 solid weekends of practice before the actual event if you're playing in Spain. Huge opportunity to learn what you can do. Let's just see if we can get some, overhead views there. So you're on, wow. Yeah, that is super attainable. Smart players have lots of options there. Let's see which one gives us the best view. None of them other than this guy. I love this view. Now, experiment with the direct run. Okay, experiment with the run that goes out, shoots this corridor here, and then you come in, and all the time look and learn from the quality of elimination. If you do this route that's out and then up, how much pressure are you able to push away from you by shooting this corridor to the best of your ability? How much pressure do you take from the guy going out to the tower on the snake side? How much pressure can your teammate who's playing back center take off you by doing this role? Huge opportunity to learn. And I think I'm going to go as far as saying this is probably my second favorite bunker on the layout. I think my favorite is back center. And there's a lot to be said as well for the back center, maybe even doing a bump to that tall tower and getting double bubble. I think that this is probably one of the most exciting opening event layouts that I've seen for years. Really cool playing it this weekend. I think one of the key aspects of progressing in paintball is often understanding. And I think the more that you can look at certain areas in detail, look at the quality of the kills you're getting, look at the quality of eliminations you're experiencing in the sense of, if you shoot a guy going into that tall tower, if you're back center and you shoot the tall tower going snake side, do you just clip him or do you really shoot him? You know, if you just clip him, recognize that could have been a better elimination. You could have got 2 or 3 balls on them. How can you achieve that? Is it a case of you need to spin and shoot faster? Is it a case of you need to put your initial lane at a different height? Be critical, because this is where the devil's in the detail, and this is where you will make the big leaps and bounds in progress. Talk to each other, discuss this, talk to your opponents, and build a rapport that you trust with each other. Speak to the guys. And I think, this is where a lot of the pro teams excel. This is where, the X factors and the infamouses and the damages, they are all very, very willing to give each other very honest critiques. There's no kind of shame in saying, oh, you got me on my way to the snake. They'll actually, and equally, there's no harm in them saying, actually, you shoot me, you're just missing me. Or, you're too high, you're too low, etc., etc., etc. They want to make their practice hard so that, the event is actually, is realistic for the event. And I think there's so much to go at here, and, open challenge to you all. Keep a training diary. What worked well on Saturday, the 7th of March? What worked well on Sunday, the 29th of March? What tweaks did you make? What changes did you make? And this is where the big dividends in terms of progression as paintball players will come. Understand what you need to do to make those differences. Understand, and also, if you're struggling, don't be afraid to ask. If any of you have any questions about this layout, or, you're struggling with certain aspects, let's say, I've waxed lyrical about this back center and the great shots it's got. Now, the luxury I have, as I was explaining to the Warthog guys on Sunday, is that for me, that's a 3-roll bunker, because I feel confident enough in my ability to put some paint down the gut. Balls 1 to 5 can go down the gut. Balls 6 to 10 or 6 to 15 can go into that tall tower, and balls 16 to 56 can go at the guy trying to, Forrest Gump trying to make the corner. Other players will look at that and go, right, okay, that's my one job. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I mean, chat with your teammates, come up with some common understanding. Feel free, if you have any questions about this layout or roles within this layout that we've talked about and touched on, fire them across. I'm here to help you, and nothing would please me more than to see you guys play this layout to the best of your ability. Have fun, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and best of luck to everyone and anyone playing the NXL Europe Spain layout. Take care.